Okay, hello ladies and gentlemen. It gives me a great pleasure to be here. I really love Hungary, I really love Budapest, I love BKF, and I love this Germatech project, which I really want to influence. You know, there's a lot of people that love maths. Put your hands up if you love maths in this room. Put your hands up if you hate maths. Put your hands up if you're anxious about maths. There's a lady in the front. Madam, we're going to cure you today. It's a big problem. So I'm going to take you through the problem as I see it. And don't get worried, it's not going to take too long, the boring stuff. I'm then going to take you through 5 examples of stuff that I'm working on. And I hope you enjoy it, and above all, I hope you find it fun. If you don't, my job has failed. So what's the problem? I'll tell you, there's a big problem. PISA, the Programme for International Student Assessment, in many, many countries looked at the work of 15-year-olds and tested them, and they gave a big wake-up call to education. In the UK, in England, it came as a big shock. With all the money we invest in education, the results are disastrous. What do we do about it? What is it for you people in Hungary? What would you say, somebody? It's not good. It's terrible, Zolt. You're even worse than we are. And you're the home of mathematics. But ladies and gentlemen, PISA recommend that for our education, we should foster enjoyment, self-belief, confidence, and the ability to undertake challenging problem solving. That's good. That's good. How much money do you think they spent to come up with those recommendations? Isn't it obvious? Of course we want people to enjoy our education. We want them to have self-belief and confidence to face challenging problems. But the problem is that many parents, teachers and kids are scared of maths. They are anxious. Most kids in the classroom are like this lady here, not like you folks who love it. So how do we take out the fear? Well, let me give you the examples of what I've done in a minute. So the first thing, the comment that you come across in schools from kids is that maths is not cool. Many kids will make this comment, but it gets worse. My highly capable granddaughter tells me that the smart kids in her class pretend not to be interested in maths. They do it, they love it, but they keep it secret because it's not cool, folks. Wow. But it gets worse. It gets even worse. Because the real problem is not the kids. I don't know. Have you ever said happily, I'm useless at maths? Have you ever said that? Ever? What do you maths people think about languages? Do you think you're good at languages? Or do you say, I'm useless at languages? Or I'm useless at music? I just cannot sing to save my life. We all have these things. But in the point of I'm useless at maths, this is incredibly dangerous. This is incredibly dangerous. Because it's sometimes said as a source of pride. I'm a creative, cool person, so obviously I hate maths. So, the first thing is with the phobia, it's not just the kids. It's the parents, teachers, and indeed much of society have something against maths. Now, a phobia is an irrational fear. So sometimes you could call it a phobia. You know, like if you're crazy scared of spiders, that's arachnophobia. Or rats, that's rat phobia. Or you could just be anxious about maths. Just anxious. You haven't got a phobia, but you could be a bit, as a kid, anxious. It's not your fault. It's not your fault. Which makes it even worse and even more dangerous. When I was researching this, I came across in the stuff some work from Stanford University, and I'm going to read this to you very slowly because I found it quite frightening. Stanford University took a team led by Professor Menon to study young children ages 7 to 9. They performed addition and subtraction problems while their brains were scanned. In the children with high math anxiety, the scan showed heightened activity in the amygdala, the brain's main fear center. High math anxiety was accompanied by decreased activity in several brain regions associated with working memory and numerical reasoning. And so it goes on. The results suggest that in math anxiety, math-specific fear interferes with the brain's information processing capacity and its ability to reason through a math problem. Folks, in a test, if you love maths, you're going to do well. If you're anxious, you've failed before you've started. So there is something really deeper about this. So what do we do? What do we do? Well, you might want to try and Google this. I Googled it, and we came up with a number of recommendations. You can Google phobia or math phobia. And we might summarize these as follows. Just take a read through those as I get off the invite to the party. How do we get rid of that, by the way?
You pull it to the right, and there's the top right corner, there's an X. You can close it with the X. Oh, you should know it. It's just some specialty of this computer. And now you have to go back to full screen. It's just...
So the first thing when you're working with kids is don't transmit your phobias if you have one. Find good reasons to study maths and so on. And those are the kinds of things that we're going to look at. Working together, get the kid involved, take the fear out. All of this kind of stuff is the same if it's arachnophobia, if it's rat phobia. So you don't have math phobia. Do you have rat phobia? Do you have arachnophobia? What phobia do you have? Wow. Madam, what phobia do you have? Oh dear. If I put a big spider out of my bag, okay, you'd be okay with that? Really? Okay. These are the kind of recommendations. You can't just give a kid another test if they have the anxiety. So what do we do? Okay. What we're going to do now is look very quickly at a framework. This is a STEM framework developed with my guru, one of the top guys in the United Kingdom in STEM, Professor Adrian Oldknow. We came up, or rather Adrian came up with a little bit of help from me, a STEM framework where we look across the disciplines and we come up with a number of projects for kids. These projects are within the curriculum or extra. and they're focused on creative problem solving and indeed collaborative problem solving, which is the big PISA thing that's coming out now. They're where kids work together with teachers as key enablers supporting the kids. And they typically work in groups of 4 to 5, team working hard folks, not waiting there to discover something, getting up and working hard under time pressure in teams, and also having fun, believe it or not. Now, these projects can be done in a week, they can be done in a term, they can be done in a year, and if you read that, the kick-off, mid-term celebration, the in-school activity, online communication and collaboration, and evaluation and assessment. Now, assessment. If you agree with our Stanford guy on testing, you might decide that testing you have to be very careful about. So we look at collaborative assessment. So we're asking the kid to do a self-review. How are they doing on these projects? We're asking the kids who work with the kid to assess the kid. And the teacher has a key job of that assessment. But can you see it's an assessment for learning and development? And so we have the student comments with the student evidence to support their judgments. And it's all a learning process rather than a test which risks giving you brain damage. And then here's the technology framework. Now, especially with the Geomatech project, the way I look at things is 4 levels. First of all, any technology clearly has got to be user-friendly, whether it's software, whether it's a physical thing. Secondly, for our purposes, the kind of stuff we do, you can't just work with a computer. There has to be a real big hands-on physical element. You have to be doing stuff to learn, in our view. Thirdly, we're looking at collaboration, obviously. But fourthly, we're looking at equality of opportunity. We've failed if we don't offer or approach giving equality of opportunity. Now, this is a big deal because in my country, when we offer things, STEM activities, Geomatech kind of activities, the big takers up will be schools in private schools, you know, who have extreme resources, really good committed teachers, so on and so forth. Our problem is in the state schools where we have great teachers but who have to be testing kids all the time and testing themselves all the time and really have a problem taking up, you know, if you like, for want of a better word, creative stuff. So how do we do that equality of opportunity? Okay. First of all, in line with the framework, we've done a lot of work on kids working with kids. So in this example for Hewlett-Packard, we have the students doing a technical problem-solving, physical hands-on activity, looking at movement. They're doing stuff. They're throwing a ball. They're using video capture, yeah, to record that ball. They might be kicking a football. They might be doing netball or whatever. They're then working on Tracker. Now, Tracker is an open source. It's free software. It's incredible software which can take a video, for example, of this girl throwing a netball, and it can track, can you see those little red lines, the movement of that flight, and examine the maths behind it. So that's incredibly powerful software. You can then take that software, and then if the kids are really smart, simulate in GeoGebra, but that's for another discussion, in, for example, sport, or use GeoGebra from that data to explore other projects. So we've got a learning thing where the kids are working as a team with their respective skills, really doing some quite complex stuff. Would you agree that's quite complex? Would you agree that's quite complex? But here we go. Hands-on. Working with software. Using that experience to work on other projects. And so on. So that's kids and kids. But guess what? I've got a question for you now. The next project we did was kids teaching kids. The kind of stuff we're doing, getting kids to video a kicking ball, recording it in Tracker and doing some work, we normally take 2 hours to do it. Yeah? If I work on kids with doing this. We went into this place and we realised that we'd only got 50 minutes to do it. And kind of by accident, we said, Christ, we can't go around these kids, working with them in 15 minutes. So what we did was we took some 15-year-olds, taught them this stuff, yeah, and said, you act as mentors, teach these other kids it, yeah? And guess what? Instead of 2 hours, they did it all in 50 minutes. How did they do that in the 50 minutes? In fact, one team, as you'll see, did it in 35 minutes, what took us 2 hours to do. When I spoke to Istvan about this, he knew, because I didn't know. Why? And Istvan told me why. It's because when these 15-year-olds were working with these other kids, they were, in his phrase, talking the same language. And they did it in 50 and 35 minutes. And an old guy like me, full of bullshit, takes 2 hours. Well, that's a bit of a lesson, but, obviously I need more experience on that. So it takes 2 hours. Now then, the agenda for this kind of workshop is what we call a hot housing workshop, right? So just very briefly, we're using this Tracker software in this intensive workshop, and it's putting kids under pressure, and indeed same with adults. If I was doing a 2-hour workshop with you, I'd do the same thing. You'd have a challenge, you have 3 minutes to come up with the solution, and then you work on it. Right? Now you think you do that with kids, and you think, flap, teacher, I don't understand. No, just do something. So the mentors are there to help them, but not to do the work. And the agenda is exactly that, it's 50 minutes. And one team did it in the whole lot in 35. It's looking at how can we analyse movement, split into groups, choose your own groups, 3 minutes discussion, present your first ideas from where you are sitting. If I gave you the same challenge, you'd have a problem doing that maybe in 3 minutes. I wouldn't even dare try it with you. So there's the group work, who does what. So also that discussion on agreement. We don't decide, kids decide between themselves what they're doing. They do the work, and all of that in 50 minutes. Now, here's an example, you see. You look at the kids' engagement, right? And that's the parent at the back, and the parent's holding the stick. In these kind of jobs, that's what I get. That's a measuring stick. So the kids are throwing the ball, it's recorded in the software, and the kids are doing all of this. And can you see that's a calibration stick, which Dad is holding. But let's see. So that's it. And can you see, we've then got the flight, we've then got the data, and we can analyse that using Tracker. But the key point for this is, the dad's engaged. The mentor, who's teaching them, I like P and ICT, so it was good. I was interested. Yeah. The kids, I enjoyed using the software. The kid, eye-opening, not what I was expecting. You'd be expecting this kind of stuff to be tough. It's easy to use. And the dad, it's great software. So that's that one. And then there's this one. Same kind of thing in the sports hall, kicking a ball, whatever, analysing the movement, the mentor. It's very interesting for people to learn it quickly. And I think I learned a lot. So by teaching, the kid learns a lot, the student learns a lot, and the mum learns a lot as well. So, the key thing for that which Istvan taught me here yesterday is why that was a success. And clearly it was the kids talking the same language. So that's the key, teaching kids. And then that made me think, because a big problem is helping the transition, from primary school, the little kiddie school, to the big school. That's a big problem and anxiety for kids. So we threw this problem at the kids. How do they help the transition? These secondary kids, look at those beautiful smiles, from primary to secondary. And they came up with that maths box idea. And basically, you can find all of this on Prezi. This is a business story, essentially. It was a social entrepreneurial project. And the kids, in their own words, had to design and set up something for school kids and younger kids. And we decided to do this, a maths booklet. We visit our primary school with the ideas we had in our mind and asked specifically, wanted to go with the video. They told us they wanted something completely different. And then they developed those math boxes, to take the anxiety out so that the smaller kids could see what was in store for them at the bigger school. But the real exciting one, which we haven't done yet, but I think we can do, is just what Istvan said. And think about this, about people talking the same language. So community engagement is we're getting kids now out of school into the community and maybe bringing community members back into school. We're looking at something which is cool, yeah? We're making maths cool with the kids and their coaches, and we're asking the coaches to come up with STEM to teach the kids and to come up with ideas on how we can help our community. So let's see. And if you see a Ronaldo free kick and look at the software of what this guy does, he's an incredibly smart, professional guy. It really is amazing stuff. And kids love this. These kids love it. And if anything else, just have a look at these happy, smiling little faces. But these kids play football. That's their primary interest. And here's another picture of those kids with older kids in our football activities. And here are the coaches. And by the way, look at these two hooligans here. Who do you think they are? You should know this, they're my grandchildren. So, what we're doing, folks, is we're now, and we've got a bid in the UK to do this. We haven't done it yet, but this football club, amateur football club, with these kids, right, we're proposing a project where the coaches now teach the kids at the parents' evenings, yeah? The parents' evenings come in to discuss the kids' progress, not at football, but how they're behaving themselves, developing their confidence. It's not just about football, it's community engagement with the parents. They have these meetings, and what our coaches are going to do is give them a STEM kind of taster for technology in those parents' meetings. But at those meetings, we're going to be giving the kids a challenge. How can we help our community? And the kinds of things that we've done before. What's happening now? Oh, sorry. And the things we've done before, these things, we're going to do those kinds of activities and get kids, and this is an example of some of the projects that we've been done, get those kids actually working with members of the community. Not only in computing, but in health. It's a big thing. The sports stuff, to then take kids and adults obviously there, working with them to get them in. We've done that as well, and the sports space. So we're now taking this stuff out from kids working with kids to kids teaching kids and parents to help in the transition from primary to secondary, right into that community engagement. Is to do what? It's to take. And I'm just going to get rid of this because talking to Isfan yesterday, Isfan told me there's two things. One, your expertise in your maths or your STEM. Are you 0 as a teacher? Are you 5 or are you 10? And his second thing is, and how much do you care? Are you 0? Are you 5? Or are you 10? And he was telling me, Tony, you can be as good as you want, but if you don't care, you're there, and it's not good. If you don't know anything about your subject, and you're down there, however caring you are, it's no good. But he said, Tony, if there's one thing, the most important thing, and this is why the lady of the conference is so important, it surely is, about caring, isn't it? So I just want you to think on how does a parent do it? So my friends, in our projects, we've been working with a thing called IBO from Sony. IBO is a highly intelligent robot, right, that we've been working with kids, typically 12, 14, 16 years old, right? The robot is great to look at research, education, it has a computer, vision system, articulate, you know, real incredibly stuff. It's discontinued, I understand, by Sony. But, you know, people are still using it. There are still clubs. But it's an incredibly cool thing to work on STEM projects. So we've undertaken projects and seen how far can we go with kids, you know, working with this intelligent robot. And we actually then went into kids' homes and worked with, you know, kids right down. And this was the youngest one, who was 2 years of age at the time. So, you know, when Isfan told me, you know, the most important thing you do is the C word, care, and that's why we're here for the conference, I just thought that was incredible. Because what does a parent do? What does a parent know how to do when, in this example, a kid is looking at complex technology? So, my friends, I can't do better than that image and leave you with not my thoughts, but Isfan. You know, you got to know something about technology. You got to know something about maths. And the more, the better. But the real thing is you got to care, just like a parent. Thank you very much. Do I have any questions? Any questions? Did you enjoy my presentation?